Hi, this is Dan here. I hope you're doing really well today. In this lesson, I'm going to take one very simple chord progression and take it through 7 different rhythms. I did a very similar lesson to this last week, so I'll put a link below if you want to look at that one. But I'm going to play the first one now. It's just a straight 8th groove. Second time round, I improvised a little bit. As we go through the lesson, I'll explain how you can do that too. Really, it's to do with the fact that we're in the key of E minor. So any scale stuff I was using to link up the chords, I was using E natural minor. And the chords are E minor, G major, D major, C. They all belong to the key of E minor, which is why it fits. Now I want to contrast that straight 8th feel, which you count like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and I want to contrast that with a shuffle swing rhythm. Let's play exactly the same bass line with that now. Now that time, 8th notes were not straight. They were not 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and they were shuffle or swing. You hear that a lot in blues and jazz. So each beat now is split up into triplets. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You've now got 3 subdivisions per beat. And if you tie the first of those 2 together, you get that swing shuffle rhythm. You know, da, 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 da. You would have heard it definitely in blues bass lines. And it really helps to listen to this kind of music so that rhythm, especially that rhythm, becomes part of you. You need to internalize these rhythms. And what I did second time round, if I'm starting on an E, I need to know E natural minor. I need to know those notes. And if I know those, I can very easily link the notes up. So I know I'm going E minor, now I'm just looking at the chord symbols above. That's, a lot of professional bass players would prefer to make up a bass line using chord symbols. And the way you do that is you know what key you're in, and there are lots of things you can do, but just then I was linking up the notes by playing through scales really, so, or the E natural minor scale, so E minor to G. Just going up the scale, back to the G. This is just one choice. I'm going G, A, B, C, D, leading from the G, all the way up the scale to hitting the D on beat 1. There, just something a bit fancier, but this time using that scale. Now that's an E minor pentatonic scale. I use that all the time. Bass players use that scale all the time. It just sounds really good. So that's the difference between a straight 8th and a shuffle, or a swing. Now let's do a 16th note bass line. I'm going to do exactly the same chord progression, E minor, G, D, C, using this 16th note. Now you can download this PDF for free below. I'll put a link to that. But this is how this one goes. Now the second time round, what I did was just completely ignore my written example and just look at the chord symbol. I prefer to do that. Now it makes sense to know 2 things when you're wanting to play in that kind of way, improvising, making stuff up on the spot. I need to know what notes are going to sound good, and that's that E natural minor scale over these different chords. You can play the arpeggios on the chords as well. I need to know that, but I also need to know what is the groove I'm playing, and in this particular example, 16th note. So these are the beats, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now it's imperative that I subdivide into 4 per beat, 4/16 per beat. So it's like there are 4 of them going past. Now, if I just look at the chord symbols here, E minor, G, D, C. So I'm going this fast. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got to hit the notes. Beat 1, I've got to hit the G there, then I'm going to D. Okay, so I was just walking up the E minor pentatonic scale there. I was on G, sorry. Something melodic, but I have to now hit D, beat 1. That's my job as a bass player. I've got to, most of the time anyway, hit the root on beat 1. Okay, that was a little bit more. I was just playing, again, minor pentatonic. I'll put a PDF to that shape as well. It's the minor pentatonic shape across the neck. There I just used a little bit more of the pattern, all the way to there. But again, I have to hit that D again. And there's that C. So as a bass player, you have to land on the root note of the chord on beat 1 most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time you'll do that. And that's really practicing just getting from one chord to the next in whatever groove you're using and being able to express yourself at the same time. So when I'm making this up on the spot, I know what notes work and I know the rhythms, and that's really what I want to do. Okay, so the next one, I'm going to play exactly the same bass line, but this time with swing quavers. They say, or 16ths, swing 16ths. I love the sound of these ones. This is how it goes. That's my favourite one to play. I love that. So this time, every beat is subdivided into swing 16ths. So instead of like this straight, it's it's another one of those ones that really, just listening to music and playing it a few times, it just sort of becomes internalized, and that's really what you want. That's used a lot in dance music styles, really. So one good way of practicing this is to, maybe go back to the lesson and listen to how I play these, download the PDF, play it exactly in whatever rhythm you have. You can get these little metronome clips or clip-on metronome / tuners, or just metronomes that actually play the beat of the 16th notes. And then you can get to hear it that way. But then improvise, there I was just doing root notes. Just root notes, a couple of ghost notes in there, and then maybe link the chords up a little bit with those notes of the scale. All notes of the E natural minor scale, because that's the key we're in. That's another way of practicing this. Next we have a Latin style, a Tumbao, which is a type of Afro-Cuban rhythm in the bass. And this is how this one goes. Now that rhythm, especially if you're into funk and rock and jazz and more Western styles, that might throw you a bit because there is lots of syncopation going on there, which is when you're playing notes that aren't emphasizing the on beat. So if you're going like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's the notes, the rhythms that are in between those, and it's quite hard to feel. Whatever I'm playing here, and I recommend you do the same, I'm strongly tapping my foot or nodding my head so that I know where the beats are. And then it's subdivisions. So I talked about straight eighths, swing eighths, 16ths. You've got to be subdividing, and that's feel, isn't it? As a bass player, we've got to play with feel, and part of that means feeling the subdivisions very strongly. You create a rhythmic grid and then you can sort of map your notes onto that, if that makes sense. It's a very, very important part of bass playing. It's just feeling that. But it's not some magical arbitrary thing. You work on it with a metronome or a drum loop, and you learn to feel those subdivisions. In this case, it's very much dun 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 dun. You see how the notes are not on the beats, they're not on the clicks. That style of music, fantastic for rhythmic awareness and improving that side of your playing. Now this one's pretty simple. We've got a dotted quarter note followed by an eighth. Very common bass rhythm. Here's how it goes. First time round, I played it exactly as written, very straight, quite boring. So the second time round, I wanted to embellish it a little bit. So, you know, E minor to G. I broke away from the dotted quarter eighth rhythm to go into some eighths, straight eighths. Here's the D here. That's something that I play all the time. I went root. This is on the D, that's the root note of that chord D. Went to the fifth, which is 2 frets across, 1 string down towards the floor. These are intervals, make sure you know these. These patterns occur all the time. That's an octave. It's 2 across and 2 down from the root. And 2 frets higher than that is a ninth. If you've watched my videos, you've seen me play that pattern before. I've stolen it from great players like Tony Levin, and you know, I know to use that now over major chords. Works over minor as well. Do the same thing on C. So you've got that basic rhythm, the dun, 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 but there's no reason why you can't mix and match these rhythms up. So let's do that one more time. I'll make something up. Now that and this, fancy fills, little melodic sections in a bass line, again, minor pentatonic, E minor pentatonic or G major pentatonic, both the same scale, they're related. Whichever shapes you use, they're the same, really. And if you inject that sort of playing into your lines, it can sound quite soulful and quite bluesy, and it's definitely something I lean on a lot, is using that pentatonic set of notes over a chord progression. Works almost every time. Okay, last we have 12/8, where we have 1, 2, 3, 4, but each beat now is subdivided into 3. This is how it goes. So the groove there, dun, 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 dun. So you, again, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm feeling those strongly, but now I'm going. So if you add 3 times 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, you get your 12/8. That's where that feel comes from. But really, I'm not conscious of counting any of these grooves, any of these different feels. It's just really the beats are present in any one of those, and that's, you know, your foot tapping and your head bobbing, and then it's just you take each beat as it comes, you know, in that case 12/8. And what happens, you know, if you're wondering how am I going to learn all these rhythms, it's really just a case of practicing them. You know, pick a 12/8 maybe for the week of your practice, and it's just until the light bulb moment goes off, until you internalize it. It's obviously quite a bit of work to do that, but it's very rewarding. Once you get that, you can take one simple chord progression like this and run it through all these different rhythms, and it's a lot to practice and it's a lot to improve on, and you will find that your overall musicianship, your groove will improve, especially if you learn to apply some different notes to the chords as they move. That'll do for now. I think what I'll do is I'll put the link below to the PDFs, and also the link to the other lesson that might supplement this one quite well. I'm going to do a lot more rhythm lessons because as bass players, that's great for us. So if you've got any other suggestions or you like this type of lesson, leave a comment below, give me a like, do subscribe to the channel because that helps me keep these videos going. Thanks very much for watching and I'll see you on the next one.